In Subnautica, where you build your base can decide everything: material access, hostile creatures, and much more. Welcome back to the channel, Sub-Zero here. Today I will be ranking every main biome in Subnautica based on how optimal it is to build your base there. I will be using 4 criteria today to fairly rank each biome: safety, resources, accessibility and location, and base practicality. With that said, let's get started. We start our journey in the iconic Safe Shallows. The Safe Shallows is the first biome encountered by the player, as it is where LifePod 5 crashed. The Safe Shallows contains coral reefs sprawling over a large part of the area, with small cave systems that can be found beneath the surface. As the name implies, this biome is one of the safest in the game, as it is a relatively shallow area. There are few environmental hazards, and no predators calling this biome home. However, caution should still be used for the occasional gasopods passing through, and the caves are home to hostile crashfish. Some predators are also known to wander here from adjacent biomes, mainly stalkers from the Kelp Forests and sand sharks from the Grassy Plateaus. For these reasons, the safety gets a 7 out of 10. It's not that bad, with minimal threats compared to other biomes. This biome is where most players will build their first base. The Safe Shallows has an abundance of resources: limestone outcrops, metal salvage, plenty of food and water sources, and many other important resources like acid mushrooms and table coral. It seems too good to be true. The only downside is that there are no late game materials, such as kyanite, diamonds, lithium, etc. However, the materials here are essential for the full playthrough anyway. For this reason, resources gets a 6 out of 10. When it comes to accessibility and location, the Safe Shallows are excellent. They are pretty much scattered around in the central area of the map, making it easy to get to and from this biome, 7 out of 10. Base practicality loses a couple points, as it's hard for a Cyclops to traverse around here, and the terrain is very uneven, which may annoy some players. Bases can be powered simply by solar panels, which is a huge help, 7 out of 10. In conclusion, the Safe Shallows score 29 out of 40. This puts them in the great location tier. It may not be optimal endgame, but as a starting biome, it's really hard to beat. Let's move on to the Kelp Forests. Kelp Forests are one of the most diverse biomes due to the range of fauna and flora that make their home in these biomes. These biomes are characterized by the abundance of creep vines and possess a distinct greenish hue in the water. When it comes to safety, the Kelp Forest is a noticeable step up in danger, as you now have to deal with the annoying stalkers. While they won't be lethal and kill you, they are incredibly persistent with their attacks, making them a sizable threat. The low visibility caused by the kelp doesn't help either. I will give the Kelp Forests a 6 out of 10 for safety, as it's manageable but does force you to be aware of your surroundings. In terms of resources, the Kelp Forest is excellent, as it provides you with access to creep vine samples, which are essential for crafting lubricants and other advanced recipes. There is also a lot of titanium, quartz and even sandstone outcrops. However, just like with the Safe Shallows, it lacks true late game materials. For these reasons, resources get a 7 out of 10. The Kelp Forests perform very well in the accessibility and location category, as just like the Safe Shallows, they are spread around the central area of the map and border many biomes, making them easy to reach. Surface access is always close as well, 8 out of 10. Base practicality gets a 6 out of 10, as the kelp itself gets in the way and terrain is also very uneven. Cyclops navigation is possible here, but really awkward. However, solar panels are all you need to power your base, and the biome has a lot of space when you find a clear patch. In conclusion, the Kelp Forest scores 26 out of 40, also putting them in the great location to build tier. Next up is the Grassy Plateaus, a biome that many of us players come to rely on. The Grassy Plateaus are characterized by large pillar-like structures, seemingly created from water erosion, smooth marine plains and sandy terrain almost completely carpeted with bloodgrass, giving the Grassy Plateaus their distinctive name. In terms of safety, the Grassy Plateaus is in the middle. Sand sharks are very annoying to deal with, as well as other creatures like biters and even plants like the tiger plants. Safety gets a 5 out of 10 because of these reasons. The Grassy Plateaus are a great place for resources. This biome is covered in sandstone outcrops, providing access to silver, gold and lead. There is tons of metal salvage in this biome, but what truly differentiates this biome from the Kelp Forest is the wrecks that you can find here. They have much more important fragments like the sea moth. Understandably, this place also lacks late game resources, but for early game, it's a brilliant place. 8 out of 10. The Grassy Plateaus also excel in accessibility and location, as these biomes are also spread across the central area of the map and connect to many other biomes. 9 out of 10. Base Practicality also scores high. The terrain is relatively flat, and all this open space makes base expansion very simple. Vehicle navigation is also incredibly smooth, especially with the Cyclops. Solar power still works down here, making bases easy to power. 9 out of 10. In conclusion, the Grassy Plateaus score 31 out of 40, making them narrowly miss out on the Paradise tier due to the aggressive creatures that reside here. It's getting pretty boring putting every biome in the same tier. Let's shake things up a little. Our next biome is no other than the Crash Zone. The Crash Zone is the biome in which the Aurora crashed in, hence its name. It is characterized by rocky slopes, mesas at the southern parts, and deep trenches covered with sand. It's also littered with debris from the crashed spaceship. The biome is very eerie, due to its open spaces, murky water, and ominous wreckage, and the presence of multiple Reaper Leviathans. When it comes to safety, the Crash Zone is the worst place to be in. Many Reapers patrol the area, and encounters are frequent. For this reason, safety gets a straight 0 out of 10. When it comes to resources, however, the Crash Zone has some slight positives. It has many important wrecks scattered around the area. However, these are one-time scans that won't be useful later on. Resources score 2 out of 10. Accessibility is pretty poor as the Crash Zone sits on the edge of the map, far away from important biomes, not to mention the Reapers that will attack your vehicles when travelling to and from the Crash Zone. 3 out of 10. Base Practicality gets a 2 out of 10. While terrain is often flat, the constant pressure from the Reapers make construction very dangerous. Your Cyclops can easily get shredded up by the Reapers if you aren't careful. In conclusion, the Crash Zone scores 7 out of 40, putting them in the do not build here category. Now let's move on to a similar biome, the Dunes. The Dunes feature open waters and vast sandy plains, sparsely littered with various types of rock structures. It is also home to many dangerous types of fauna, the most notable one being the 8 Reaper Leviathans, yes 8, that patrol the open spaces of the biome. The Dunes are pretty much identical to the Crash Zone in terms of rankings, apart from resources, as there are more things to be found here. Safety gets a 0 out of 10. Resources get pushed up to 4 out of 10. Base Practicality gets slightly increased to a 3 out of 10. Even though it's on the border of the crater, it is close to important biomes like the Blood Kelp Trench and the Grand Reef. Base Practicality stays the same as the Crash Zone for the exact same reasons. It's a flat, barren terrain with lots of Leviathans. 2 out of 10. In conclusion, the Dunes score 9 out of 40, also putting it in the do not build here tier. Next up, we descend into the Jellyshroom Caves. The Jellyshroom Caves are a medium-depth cave biome located beneath the Grassy Plateaus. They are instantly recognisable by their massive glowing jelly shrooms and winding tunnel systems. Visually, the biome is stunning, but then there are some predators, known as the crab snakes. Safety gets a 5 out of 10, as the Jellyshroom Caves sit right in the middle. There are no Leviathans down here, but there are crab snakes, which are pretty dangerous. Resources get a 7 out of 10, as there's a lot of different resources you can drill here, which is important. No late game material though. Accessibility and location get 4 out of 10. This is where the biome starts to struggle, as entrances are narrow, easy to miss, and they require careful navigation. I don't think it's possible to get your Cyclops down here either. Base Practicality gets a 5 out of 10, As for base practicality, the Jellyshroom Caves are not ideal, but they're not that bad either. The terrain is uneven, but there is useful resources down here, and it's not that dangerous. In conclusion, the Jellyshroom Caves get a 21 out of 40, putting them in the decent all-round biome tier. The next biome we are covering is the Mushroom Forest. The Mushroom Forests are biomes characterized by towering coral known as tree mushrooms, as well as many other types of life forms, especially flora. When it comes to safety, the Mushroom Forests perform well, as there are no leviathans and very limited hostile threats. You may bump into the occasional biter, a warper, or sand shark. Visibility is great too, 9 out of 10. Resources are quite high. The Mushroom Forests contain plenty of metal salvage, lithium deposits, and even shale outcrops, as well as many fragments for vehicles like the Cyclops. This is excellent for mid-game progression, 8 out of 10. Accessibility and location is another great feature of the Mushroom Forest, as it is close to the centre of the map and connects to several important biomes. Travel and depth is also quite manageable, 9 out of 10. Finally, base practicality is another decent factor. The terrain is relatively flat and it's a very open biome. However, the mushroom trees get in the way a lot, and it's also annoying to navigate around them in a Cyclops, 7 out of 10. In conclusion, the Mushroom Forests get a 33 out of 40, putting them in the well-deserved Paradise tier. Next up is the Sparse Reef. The Sparse Reef is a large, sprawling region composed of relatively flat areas covered by green mounds scattered with table coral. Just like the Mushroom Forests, the Sparse Reef have no aggressive creatures apart from the occasional warper. Safety gets a 9 out of 10. The Sparse Reef contains large amounts of outcrops, deposits, and access to nearby wrecks with fragments. It sits very close to important biomes like the Blood Kelp and Grand Reef, making it a great biome in mid-stage progression. Yet again, it lacks some important late-stage materials and resources, which is the only thing holding the score back, 8 out of 10. Accessibility performs well. It's located near the south centre of the map. Travel routes are clean and open, as well as pretty safe, 8 out of 10. Base practicality does well here, as the terrain is flat and wide, making it easy to build on. There is plenty of room for expansion. However, since this biome is quite deep, you will want to use nearby thermal vents to power your base, 7 out of 10. In conclusion, the Sparse Reef scores 32 out of 40, just barely putting them into the Paradise tier. They are a great choice to build a base, even though they do look quite boring. Next up is a much more dangerous but cool looking biome, the Bulb Zone. Did you know that this biome used to be called the Kush or Kush Zone? Fun piece of trivia for you. The Bulb Zone is characterized by small crevices and overhangs in a vast sandy dune-like area. It is also abundant with small brown algae and a large variety of plants with bluish purple hues, the most notable of which being the various sized bulb bushes. When it comes to safety, the Bulb Zone is not ideal. It doesn't have the constant chaos of the dunes or the Crash Zone, but it contains some very powerful creatures such as the ampeels and bone sharks. Because of this, safety earns a 3 out of 10. The Bulb Zone does pretty well resource-wise, as you can find lithium, shale outcrops and useful wrecks. For this reason, resources get a 7 out of 10. Accessibility-wise, the Bulb Zone is quite awkward. It sits on the outer edge of the map and is quite deep, 4 out of 10. Base practicality is low for the Bulb Zone. It has uneven terrain and aggressive creatures that will cause you unnecessary stress, 3 out of 10. In conclusion, the Bulb Zone scores 17 out of 40, putting it in the impractical to build tier. It's only worth to build here if you want to look cool and show off your base. Next up, underwater islands. Most of the underwater islands rely completely on the buoyancy provided by ancient floaters. Currently, there are 18 islands in the area, with the size of many islands varying from minuscule to massive. 2 of the largest islands have a great variety of life forms, and even possess their own separate cave system. There are no leviathans here, but there are plenty of bone sharks, which are very aggressive and annoying. They aren't game-ending threat, but they can definitely shred up some of your vehicles and harm you if you aren't careful, 4 out of 10. This biome is also good when it comes to resources. You'll find plenty of titanium, copper, lithium, as well as shale outcrops and rubies nearby. Great mid-game loot, 8 out of 10. Accessibility is okay. They aren't on the edge of the map and are decently close to the centre, making it a decently easy to reach biome once you obtain the Seamoth. However, navigating around the islands can be tedious in the Cyclops, 7 out of 10. Base practicality scores low, as building a base here is frustrating to say the least. You have very limited flat terrain on each island and will end up having to extend your bases off the islands, which ruins the looks a little. With that said, it's still fairly spacious and power shouldn't be too much of a problem, as there are thermal vents nearby, 5 out of 10. In conclusion, the underwater islands are a beautiful and unique biome that score a 24 out of 40, putting them in the decent all-round biome tier. Moving on to the Sea Treader's Path now. The Sea Treader's Path biome is largely made up of a massive hill with an expansive tunnel running through it. Safety performs better than you expect. Even though there is a Leviathan class lifeform here, they won't attack you unless provoked, so make sure you build out of their way, 8 out of 10. Resources are great here, as the Sea Treaders constantly dig up shale outcrops, giving you a renewable source of lithium, diamonds, and gold. Lithium and rubies can also be found in the nearby caves, 9 out of 10. Accessibility and location is not ideal, as it sits on the edge of the map and is surrounded by dangerous biomes like the blood kelp, the dunes, and the Grand Reef. However, if you make your way through the Sparse Reef, then you shouldn't have too many problems, 5 out of 10. Base practicality is quite good, as the terrain is open and flat, which is great for building bases. Cyclops navigation is quite comfortable too. However, with the Sea Treaders being here, you need to make sure that you choose where you build your base carefully, as you may experience occasional collisions. You can power your base with a bioreactor or nearby thermal vents, 8 out of 10. In conclusion, the Sea Treader's Path gets 30 out of 40, putting them in the great location to build tier. Let's go into the Grand Reef now. The Grand Reef is home to a limited amount of fauna, including the large bottom-dwelling Sea Treader Leviathans as mentioned before, as well as 2 massive ghost Leviathans. It is also known for its unique types of flora, from the many luminous anchopods to the peculiar membrane trees. Safety ranks pretty low here, as there are ghost leviathans here as well as many annoying crab squids that will constantly EMP blast you and your bases, shutting down vehicles temporarily, 2 out of 10. The Grand Reef has many rubies, gel sacks and wrecks, acting as a great gateway into the late game progression, 7 out of 10. Accessibility is alright, but not ideal, as the biome is located away from the centre of the map and requires deeper travel than most biomes. It's okay navigation wise with the Cyclops, 4 out of 10. Base practicality also scores low, the terrain is uneven and awkward to build on. The EMP blasts definitely don't help the cause either, 3 out of 10. In conclusion, the Grand Reef biome scores 16 out of 40, putting it in the impractical to build tier. Let's quickly cover the 2 islands now, the floating island and the mountain island. Both islands score the same safety wise. There are a lot of annoying cave crawlers ready to pounce on you, and the surrounding waters are Leviathan infested, 6 out of 10. Resources scores decently, as there are many scannable plants and grow beds providing a great source of food and water. You can also find diamonds and lithium on the mountains biome. After you collect them, however, the long-term value of resources drops after you try enter into endgame, 6 out of 10. Accessibility gets a 5 out of 10. They can be annoying to get to, but are easy to find as you only have to follow the clouds in the distance. Lastly, base practicality gets a 4 out of 10. Vehicle access is impossible with the Cyclops and Seamoth. Also, the terrain can be uneven and annoying to build on at times. In conclusion, the 2 islands score 20 out of 40, just barely putting them into the decent all-round biome tier. Let's now move on to one of the most iconic and personally one of my favourite locations in the game, the Tree Cove. While it's not technically a biome, it definitely deserves a shout out, as it's where most players, me included, build their base. It's a stunning and calm biome with beautiful visuals. When it comes to safety, it gets a 10 out of 10. This little gap between the Lost River and Lava Zone is where you get a moment to relax with no highly aggressive creatures spawning here too often. While it doesn't cover every resource, it still has many. Nickel and crystalline sulfur is essential late game. You will also find many useful deposits you can drill, 9 out of 10. Accessibility and location gets a 5 out of 10. While it is positioned perfectly for late game progression, it takes a lot of preparation and effort to actually reach. Lastly, base practicality gets a 9 out of 10. The terrain is mostly flat, vehicle access is ideal, and thermal power is nearby, making it a great place to build. In conclusion, the Tree Cove scores 33 out of 40, putting this biome in the well-deserved Paradise tier. Let's move on to the Crag field now. This deep biome features large rock spikes and rippling stone hills, bearing resemblance to the older Grand Reef, all of which is formed atop a massive crag dropping down into the aforementioned biome. The Crag field is a resource-rich biome with some low-level predators. Groups of bone sharks are frequent in the area, along with the occasional mesmer passing by. Tiger plants can also be found in this biome, camouflaged and mostly hidden in the grasses within the rock structures. For these reasons, safety gets a 5 out of 10, and resources get a 6 out of 10. Accessibility just gets a 4 out of 10, as it is on the edge of the map and awkward to get to. Lastly, base practicality gets a 4 out of 10, as the terrain can often be uneven and the hostile creatures can be annoying. Power options can also be limited. In conclusion, Cragfield scores 19 out of 40, putting it in the impractical to build tier, just missing out on the decent all-round biome tier. Next is the infamous mountains biome. The mountains are characterized by a variety of huge rocky mountain ranges, with vast unobstructed areas of open water surrounding them. Hydrothermal vents can often be found on the mountains and typically contains magnetite around them. Plenty of large smooth boulders can be seen resting along valleys and the seabed. Safety gets a 0 out of 10. This biome is scattered with reapers that are waiting to shred you and your vehicle to pieces. Resources get a 7 out of 10 on the other hand. This place is home to many crucial fragments and lots of materials like diamonds and gold. Accessibility is pretty low. The mountains are on the outer edge of the map, and travelling to this biome is very risky, 3 out of 10. Lastly, base practicality gets a 1 out of 10. While there are thermal vents to power your base and many useful fragments, you are better off making one-off trips to collect everything you need in one go, rather than settling down here. In conclusion, the mountains get an 11 out of 40 rating, putting them in the do not build here tier. Next up is the Blood Kelp Zone and Trench. I will be ranking them together as one biome, as they are very similar, with the two main differences being that the trench is smaller and more narrow, whereas the zone is home to a ghost leviathan and more spacious. When it comes to both the zone and trench, safety is very low. This biome is home to many dangerous fauna like the ampiel, crab squid, blood crawler and ghost leviathan to name a few, 1 out of 10. Resources are high here. Many important items such as blood oil and deep shrooms are here, as well as many general resources you need, 8 out of 10. Accessibility is poor in both versions of the biome. The trench is hard to navigate due to how narrow it is, whereas the zone is more spacious but still disorientating, 4 out of 10. Lastly, base practicality gets a 3 out of 10. The terrain is uneven, visibility is awful, and especially in the trench there is little space to expand your base. Thermal power is possible but doesn't help the situation. In conclusion, the Blood Kelp Zone and Trench gets a 16 out of 40, just barely putting them in the impractical to build tier. Next up is the Lost River. The Lost River is a vast and gloomy biome, its water possessing a distinct greenish tint due to the illuminating brine pools that cover a majority of the seabed. These pools are highly acidic, even to your sea moth. Safety ranks higher than you would expect. Yes, there is a juvenile ghost leviathan in certain sections, and some mid-tier aggressive fauna, but once you understand the layout, you will know which large portions of the biome are actually quite calm, and danger feels more predictable. 5 out of 10. Resources are excellent here. You get many mid to late game materials, such as nickel ore, crystalline sulfur, and more general material deposits you can drill. 9 out of 10. Accessibility gets a 4 out of 10. It's hard to travel to and you need to be prepared, travelling through many dangerous biomes. Lastly, practicality gets a surprisingly high 8 out of 10. It has large open areas, great thermal power and good vehicle access. The environment here is more manageable than it appears, and having a base here is a great gateway between mid to late game. In conclusion, the Lost River scores 26 out of 40, just about putting it in the great location to build tier. Next up is the Inactive Lava Zone. The Inactive Lava Zone is characterized by large arching structures and walls of hardened lava, with occasional steaming lava falls. It is composed of 2 distinct areas and can be found at 960 to 1390 meters down, well below the limit of the Seamoth. Safety in this biome is definitely going to have a low ranking. Lava lizards are aggressive and constant, not to mention the sea dragon leviathan that can destroy your vehicles in seconds if you aren't careful. However, getting to this biome requires a lot of preparation. So once you do get here, you can deal with the threat relatively well. 4 out of 10. This biome is one of the best when it comes to resources. It has an array of early, mid and even endgame loot. From titanium deposits to kyanite, it has everything you need. 10 out of 10. Accessibility is poor, as it is an endgame biome, meaning that you need to traverse incredibly deep through multiple dangerous biomes. You can't get here with a Seamoth either, making the Cyclops and Prawn suit necessary. The visibility in this biome isn't the best either, 2 out of 10. Base practicality ranks high in this biome. The terrain is very open and spacious, and bases are incredibly easy to power with thermal vents. Having a base here to collect resources is very practical as long as you manage the threats down here wisely, 7 out of 10. In conclusion, the Inactive Lava Zone scores 23 out of 40, putting it in the decent all-round biome tier, only held back by its location and dangers. Moving on to the deepest biome in the game, it is the lava lakes. The lava lakes are much smaller than the Inactive Lava Zone, but have much more volcanic activity. The chamber consists of a huge lake of lava, hence the name, with the occasional lava falls and masses of magma. Lava falls are a common sight in this biome, along with obsidian pillars and magma formations. Compared to the Inactive Lava Zone, the lava lakes have higher visibility and a brighter orange fog, due to the greater intensity in lava activity and abundance. Safety scores are 1 out of 10. It's a small biome that is patrolled by the sea dragon leviathan, meaning that you will bump into him often. Resources down here actually get a downgrade. Sure, you get more kyanite, but you don't have general materials you need, like titanium, gold, etc. 4 out of 10. Accessibility gets a 2 out of 10. It's the hardest biome to get to, and you need to be incredibly prepared. At least the visibility is slightly improved down here. Lastly, base practicality gets a 3 out of 10. It's an incredibly dangerous biome. You get some benefits like thermal power and open space, but nothing new. In conclusion, the lava lakes score 10 out of 40, putting it in the do not build here tier. Now we move on to the very last biome, the one and only Crater's Edge, also known as the Void. The Crater Edge is a large open ocean devoid of any flora, coral, and all but one non-microscopic fauna species, the 3 adult ghost leviathans that spawn when the player enters. Safety gets an instant 0 out of 10. You will always have up to 3 ghost leviathans always hunting you down. Resources get 0, there is nothing of value here, simple as that. Accessibility gets a 0, as it's beyond the edge of the map and very impractical to get to. Base practicality gets 0 out of 10. There is no way to anchor a base other than hanging it off the side, and very limited power options being here. In conclusion, the Void gets our first and last 0 out of 40, putting it in the do not build here tier. There is no reason for a base to be built here, but that doesn't stop it from being a fun challenge, and I know that many of you have already got a void base just like me. And with that, we've officially ranked every biome in Subnautica. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Just remember, these rankings are entirely my opinion, and that's what makes this fun. I'd love to hear your thoughts, disagreements and suggestions, so let me know in the comments which biome is your favourite, or where you would build your base. And if you enjoy this type of Subnautica content, consider subscribing to join the Sub-Zero community. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.